Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. And I'm your host, Beau. In today's show, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about building a tribe, masterminding, the importance of building family legacy, and so much more. And I'm really happy to have somebody that I consider a mentor and a friend on the podcast with us today, Mike McCarthy. Mike is a husband, father, and serial entrepreneur. Over the past 2 decades, he is grateful to have played a major role in the growth and expansion of Keller Williams to become the #1 real estate company in the world. As the regional operating partner for the Greater Pennsylvania region, he is proud to lead like 10,000 plus agents, 50 plus locations. I think they've done about 20 billion in transactions, so that's pretty amazing. Mike is also co-founder of GoBundance, which I'm a member of, and that's going to be it's been a game changer for me. He's also the co-founder of FamBundance, co-author of The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families, a facilitator of Group Genius, and a speaker and trainer. Prior to us going on air, I'm stuttering on air. We were talking about because I recently got married, about the importance of family and how Mike created FamBundance and building a legacy. And he kind of put some great insight in my mind about, you got to start with your family really first. And a lot of us entrepreneurs, we're so stuck in just like a grow your business mindset. And I think Mike really, what I've noticed about Mike over the years is he's just really humble, and he's not like a typical business person. He's more of a spiritual leader, and business is secondary, but because he's a spiritual leader, his business has just blossomed. And I find that fascinating because you don't really find that many Mikes out there. So welcome to the show, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Beau, thanks. Appreciate the kind words and got a lot of respect for what you've done professionally and who you are. It's been fun to watch you grow into a married man and build your little family with your dog now, and it's just fun to watch, man. And you've been an early member and supporter of GoBundance really since the beginning. So it's a pleasure to be here and to serve you and to serve your audience. So thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Can we get started? I think a lot of people out there, they're always seeking enlightenment as far as business and even relationships. But can you kind of take us back to when you realized like the power of being around like-minded people, and like how you started the concept of building a tribe where you could use that to help you up level, both we can get into the pillars and so forth. And then I think you really realized the importance, and then you kind of pivoted with FamBundance. And kind of walk us through the journey of how that all evolved. And I think for the people that are listening or watching this in the future, it's really important to get around people that are going to energize you, and not just financially, but like on every level. And GoBundance 6 pillars is remarkable for that, because you don't just look at like, oh, what's your net worth? Yes, that's an important pillar, but that's by far not the most important pillar. So will you just talk to us about the evolution of how you first described, or you first got involved with like really kind of taking masterminding as kind of a very important thing?
Yeah, thanks. It's funny because the idea of a mastermind first popped into my head when I was reading the book Think and Grow Rich. It's a big part of that book. And they talked about, Dale Carnegie having a mastermind group and never being the dumbest, the smartest man in any room. He always wanted to be surrounded by smart people. And same with Henry Ford. And, that really resonated with me, because when I went to school and I was getting as many C's as I could possibly get, and being repeatedly sort of told that I wasn't smart or that I was average, and I just wasn't good at school. But I had some street smarts, like a different type of intelligence that served me well in the world, but in the school classroom, it didn't serve me well. And so that idea of getting around other smart people and sharing strengths and exchanging value, it just really resonated with me. And so as a young man, I actually started working at a Keller Williams Realty and started going to some of their trainings. And I took a class called Quantum Leap. And that was the first time in my life at 18 where I realized that I could like design the life that I wanted to have. Like I could choose who I was surrounded by. I could choose who my friends are, who my mentors were. I could choose who I served from a charitable standpoint. And that was really eye-opening for me because in the past, prior to that, the goals sort of felt like something that my parents wanted me to do. Like they were their goals and not my goals. And so I started taking those classes, and I was fortunate enough to meet a mentor by the name of David Osborne. And David was a similar place as me professionally. He was just 10 years ahead of me. So he was doing the exact same thing, developing regions and franchises for Keller Williams, but his region and his franchises were 10 years earlier than mine. So he became like the perfect mentor for me. And along that same journey, I joined a coaching group. There's a guy named Tim Wood who actually recently passed away, who was a mentor of mine as well and a coach. And he used to take everybody that was in his coaching group on these adventure vacations at the end of the year. And he actually would take all of your coaching fees that you paid in all year, and then he'd bring you on this trip, and all you had to pay was your airfare and everything else was taken care of. And when I was on those trips, I met a gal named Janai Lane, and Janai became my spiritual coach. And I still work with her every other week till to this day. You mentioned being a very spiritual person. And kind of what happened for me, Beau, was I got to a place where I should have been happy because I had achieved a position within Keller Williams at a young age. I was a regional director by the age of 24. I had sold and won many franchise sales awards, but I was left feeling sort of empty and hollow. And I realized that there was something missing. And that something was really, I needed to go do a lot of internal work. And what I've noticed is that we really have 3 stages of leadership. The first stage is when we decide we're going to lead ourselves, and we realize like I'm the master of my destiny. I have to set my own goals, and I'm also responsible for whatever impact I make in the world, whether it's good or bad. And I really have to take ownership of things I've done in the past that I'm not proud of, things that I've done in the past that maybe created pain for myself or others. And you have to get to a point where you really work on that deeper inner trauma as an individual. And I think once you make the commitment to do that, what you'll see is that the right people start showing up, like a David Osborne or a Janai Lane. They show up in your life and you resonate with them because you're on a similar journey. And it's a journey of like ultimate self-discovery and reaching our true potential, figuring out who we truly are and what we're here to do. And I think that's the beginning of starting my journey of starting mastermind groups. So before there was even GoBundance, I had started a group of families that were all entrepreneurs that started meeting in my hometown. And we all had kids that were all under the age of about a year. And so that was my first sort of mastermind group. And we did that for a couple of years. And then GoBundance started blossoming under the leadership of David Osborne, Tim Rode, and Pat Hyben, who they were the 3 amigos, a small mastermind group of 3 people. And I sort of started going on trips with them and became the 4th amigo. And long story made a little bit longer is that GoBundance was born of that small group of 4. And now we're a group of 800 entrepreneurs that are all $1 million and above net worth. And we go on these epic vacations and trips. And each one of the partners, the 4 of us, all bring a different dynamic. So I'm more family and spiritual and emotional health. Tim Rode is more genuine contribution and getting the goods in the woods or bucket list adventures. Pat Hyben is horizontal income and extreme accountability. And so we each bring sort of a little flavor of the GoBundance pillars together. And we've grown this amazing tribe, not because we set out to do it, but because we just found so many like-minded people who wanted to grow themselves as leaders, give back in the world and be the best they could be, but also bring their family along for the journey and really show up as leaders, not only in the business world, but also in their families' lives. So that's kind of my roundabout way of getting into masterminding, is really like a way of life. For me, I'm also in many other mastermind groups besides GoBundance. So I'm a mastermind aholic, I guess you could say. Like I tend to join these groups because you really just find your people. And when you find the people who've already done what you want to do, the pathway to you doing it gets much clearer, and you have a map to follow to get whatever you want. And the bigger and more successful the group is that you're a part of, the more solutions there will be at your fingertips anytime you need them.
I love that. Now let's kind of talk about FanBundance. And, you know, I don't have any children yet, but I was just telling you earlier before we went live is that now that I'm married, right, like I have to start thinking differently because I have somebody in my life that's I'm married to, and it's interesting because she's not like driven how I am driven. Like I'm wired because I like business, and she's more like laid back. But yet I'm trying to figure ways of sharing my life with her. Not just, you know, the normal stuff, but like, this is what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about how do we start developing like these conversations with our family members? Because I think it all stems from home. Like I have, my parents live here in Vegas too. And sometimes I catch myself like my parents have kind of a middle class mentality because we grew up middle class, and I'm the one in the family that's always entrepreneurial. And the other day, my mother was like, you know, how you're buying properties, you're not even looking at these properties, they're out of state. And like, she was just concerned, like, oh, like the risk levels. And I'm like, Mom, I've been in real estate for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. We get inspections. And that was kind of like, and then I stopped her and I said, Mom, you know, you like, you have to like take certain risk in life, you know, educated risks to grow. And this is what I choose to do because I know I'm making a decent financial decision. I know what the worst case scenarios are, but it's interesting that the family dynamics. And I think obviously it's FanBundance is, you guys are really developing your whole family structure. But I also, since I don't have children, I'm also developing like my parents, right? Because we're not on the same wavelength on some things. So it's just so interesting. And then getting my wife involved, where she doesn't have to love what I do for a living, but I like to share what I'm doing. So she at some point might want to get involved in the business. I don't know. So what are some kind of tips and techniques to really like, because a lot of people, if they're getting negative feedback from their family to do something like entrepreneurial or, hey, I want to quit my W-2 job and do this, it really stems from the family. And that's what it really resonates with you and like why you started FanBundance. Can you kind of talk about frameworks of like how you start these conversations and how do you progress from there?
Yeah, man, what a great question that is, because so many people struggle with that. And, you know, I think, you know, there's this idea of FanBundance that we created within GoBundance. While I was the CEO for 3 years, I realized that none of these huge legacies and net worths that people were building meant anything unless they really had a plan for succession and what would ultimately would their legacy be. And whether they had children or not, their legacy is still being built, not just with the wealth that they have, but the values that might drive where that wealth goes after they're gone, because it's going to go to support something. And that something is going to be based on a set of values. And I realized that I wanted to create programs for my own family that would help them to be value driven and to understand what it means to be a McCarthy. So we really took some time to hone our family values. And that informs a lot of our goals and the things that we do. And that's a whole process that we actually go over. We've got a book called The Miracle Morning for Parents and Families. And there's a playbook. It's a workbook that goes along with the book, and it stands alone as its own its own product. You don't need to get the main book to do the workbook. In the workbook, it actually teaches 7 different exercises that you can do at home with your family that helps to do things like create goals together, set some family currency. So if you have kids and instead of an allowance, we teach a program where you can create a currency where they earn, in our family, McCarthy stars for doing things around the house. And then they can exchange those stars for money. There's an exchange rate, or they can spend it on screen time or having a piece of candy, for instance. But they can negotiate anything that they want from their stars. But the point of the playbook is that we wrote this and released it in October because it was all of the things that I felt high functioning teams do really, really well in the business world, but these are tailored so that you can do them with your family. And it's a collection of exercises that we've facilitated hundreds of families through these exercises through the FAMbundance events. And so now we've packaged it into this playbook so that anybody, whether you're in FAMbundance or GoBundance or not, can access these exercises. And to answer your question more directly is, how do we get our family to buy into these things? Like, because just because there's a playbook that teaches this stuff doesn't mean that you can bring it to your spouse and they're going to instantly be excited about having to do work, right? Because even though it's called a playbook, I don't think too many people are fooled by the fact that it's actually a workbook, right? There's some work that you need to do. So my recommendation would be to start small with stuff like this. So you mentioned, Beau, so we'll use you as an example. Is your wife may not be that excited about real estate, or maybe never want to work with you in it. But what most human beings can relate to is, I bet she has her own goals and her own dreams of things that she wants to do in life, whether it's vacation to certain areas, give back in certain ways, maybe check off some certain experiences on her bucket list. So what I like to teach people is to start where somebody's passions and energy is already flowing, and get on the same page around what they're passionate about, what their goals are, and work on creating some sort of family goals for the year. Here's the trips we want to go on. Here's the charities we want to support. Here's the bucket list adventures we're going to cross off. And then within that, Beau, it should be some of her own individual stuff, some of you and hers collective goals, and then it should be some of your own individual goals. And I think if you can share those all as a family, and it encompasses the things that also are important and matter to her, then it'll be more likely that she wants to listen and hear what's important to you, and stuff that maybe she's uninterested in, like real estate, for instance. So it's kind of going to where their passion already is and easing them into it so that they understand that this isn't just like you trying to CEO the household, or trying to be Mr. I know it all and I'm the leader of the house and we're going to do these team building things. It's really getting them to understand that this is truly about becoming the type of family that you want to become, so that you can go live the type of life that you want to live. And I think people can relate to that, no matter how much resistance they might have to masterminds or personal development or whatever it might be. So you've got to kind of ease into it with those things that they're already passionate about. And if they're unwilling to do that, I might say something like, well, that's fine. If you don't want any input into this stuff, then I'll just design our family and tell you all about it, which people definitely don't like that. It's a bit of a takeaway close. It's like, hey, we can do this together and you can have input, or I can just do it. Who's going to say, no, I don't want any say in how my life goes? They want to be involved in the life that they're creating. So that would be my advice to you for your wife and for kids. Even if you had kids, I would give the same advice on how to engage them in these practices.
No, that's great, because my wife really wants to get a second home. in Playa del Carmen because she's from Mexico. And now it's like, it's my mind spinning like, okay, look, how are we going to get there? Okay, we need, you got to pay cash because it's hard to get bank loans. Okay, how much cash are we going to need? How, when we're not there, how are we going to make it generate income, right? And start, because I think that would actually really engage her. So that's really good nuggets right there. I love it.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break. Are you looking for funding? Are you getting frustrated trying to find a lender? Visit investorfinancingpodcast.com and click the Get Funding button. Complete the simple form and schedule a free phone consultation with one of our placement specialists. We have a proprietary directory of funding partners that can help you get the funding you need. It's fast and easy to explore the options available for your specific needs. Don't wait. Visit investorfinancingpodcast.com and get connected.
Can we talk a little bit about kind of, I'm going to call it benchmarking, but like what are some things that you've done? Like we can talk about, high level, like the one sheet. We can talk about a 5-year vision, business life and goals. Net worth calculator, personal rating balance wheel, right? Like those are all like pillars or benchmarks that the tribe has created to, because if you're not measuring your, I guess we'll call them KPIs, right? In a sense, they're benchmark KPIs. If you're not looking at where you're going and where you're at, I think that's the number one big takeaway initially you get from like joining a group like GoBundance, where that's your framework. Like you have to measure where you're at and where you want to go, and you have to write these goals down. Can we talk about
pillars,
goal setting and journaling together?
Yeah.
Like how because a lot of people don't journal. A lot of people don't write their goals down. And it's like, it's proven if you write your goals down, you're going to achieve your goals, or at least a high percentage, more likely than not writing your goals down. So can you talk about those kind of items that I just mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you nailed it, is that first you have to benchmark where you're at. There has to be a level of honesty of like, here's where I'm truly at. My debt is X. My income is X. My assets are added up to this amount. And you've got to really look at the financial picture, but you've also got to look at, what do I weigh? What's my body fat? What's my inner age, if you will? There's some tests and programs you can do through blood testing that sort of benchmark your blood and your markers compared to other people a similar age as you. You've also got to look at like, how much am I giving away? And what are my top bucket list items? You've got to really formulate all of those things. You've got to understand how much you're paying in taxes, and you've got to understand what percentage you are. In GoBundance, we talk about being 100%er, which is when you have enough passive income sources that the total amount of income you're earning from those equals or exceeds your personal expenses. And that's when you become financially free. And in GoBundance, we have a really one sheet that we compile all of this information onto. And it's sort of like a baseball card. It's got all your stats, all your benchmarks on it. It has your goals in different pillars. It has, your upcoming highs for the year, the highs that you've experienced so far this year, your bucket list items. It has all your financial information. And it also has some other important things, which are, where do you need help and what do you need people to hold you accountable to? Because it's one thing to benchmark with yourself and put all this stuff on paper, but the true power comes when you have a group that you can share it with and get feedback on, because then you have to be really open and vulnerable and transparent, because a lot of people like to hide behind the stats where they're doing the best. Like, I closed this many deals. Okay, great. But what's your net profit? And of that net profit, how much did you save? And of that money that you saved, how much did you actually redeploy? Because the game isn't just to close deals. And a lot of times, if we're a good deal closer, we like to hang out in the I close lots of deals And you might be a great deal closer, and that might be something you're awesome at. And your attachment to doing deals might be the one thing that's holding you back, because maybe you could hire somebody to help close deals. Maybe you could hire more people to close deals for you. But we often get caught up in, I'm the one who does this job and I get significance from it. And so I'm going to prop up my success in one area, but actually the rest of my life is falling apart. So maybe I close a lot of deals, I make a lot of money, but I don't invest wisely. So my horizontal income and my passive income is not very good. Maybe I don't go on date nights, or I ignore my family. So my authentic relationships pillar is crumbling. Or maybe I'm so wrapped up in my business and what I'm doing to build my business that I forget that I have talents and resources that the community might need, and that I could be giving in the pillar of genuine contribution. And so there's another pillar that we give up is health, age-defying health. Maybe we're nailing it and doing deals and even maybe spending time with family, but maybe we're overweight and we haven't taken care of our health. And so we've got to make sure we're not hiding out in an area where we're successful and pounding our chest and saying, look at me, I'm awesome. And it takes a peer group who's willing to look at what you're doing and ask enough questions to get to the bottom of, like, yeah, you glossed over your health though. What about your health? Are you working out? You didn't mention your kids. Are you spending enough time with your kids? That kind of thing. So I think the power of these benchmarks comes when you really have a group you can share those with repeatedly. And then over time, hopefully you're progressing. And if you get the right group, then they're going to help you grow in every area of your life, instead of just applauding, like, great job on closing all those deals. They're going to help you where you need it most.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. You definitely need to have a group that you can share with and be transparent. I think that was one of my issues, early on was being transparent. And like, I always felt like, oh, I'm competing with this person. And he, even when you're in a group of 800 plus very successful people, it's often intimidating because a lot of them are way more successful than you in the financial realm, let's just say. But also, what's interesting about the dynamics of, not everybody needs to be worth $100 million or $200 million. Not everybody needs to be worth 10 or $20 million. I think you got to find that balance for who you are, right? Like, because I look at a guy like Tim, and Tim is like what I would, like, for me, I resonate with Tim and you, like the kind of philosophies of like true wealth versus somebody's like saying, oh, well, true wealth to me is I have a yacht and do all this kind of stuff. Where Tim was like, hey, I just want to go skiing and my expenses are paid, 4 or 5x, and I don't need to be a huge multi 100 millionaire, right? And so there's different success levels for everybody. And some people are just so driven that they want to be worth $1 billion, and I think social media does injustices for a lot of people. Cause right now, like you go on social media now and it's all about my Lamborghini and all this kind of stuff. When really that's not the really important thing. I'm more of an individual that just wants to be at peace, and really at peace is, okay, how's your family life? Are you stressing about money, right? A lot of people, the average Joe family, right? The biggest stress in their life right now is financial freedom. So obviously it's a very important benchmark is your financial independence. How close are you? Do you have any recurring revenue, right? Like a lot of people just don't even have that passive income. So that's why I love real estate, because it can get you freedom, right? It can get you to a point, but there's so much more to life. And I think that's what Mike really brings in, because really you're at peace, right? You're at peace and you're not in a state of stress where there's people that are like that. They're so stressed to make more money. And I think that's kind of dangerous, right? Because they're always kind of comparing just one of the pillars when you got to look at all these pillars. Because if you build all these pillars, that's how you have true success. And a lot of people overlook that. And that's what I think you really always point out in any conversation I've ever heard you talk about. It's really like, and even today you said, like, fam is the most important thing. That's what I like to talk about. You never talk about being like ultra successful, which you are, which is, I find very interesting because most people talk about what they're most successful about, right? Like, so you do the reverse, which is kind of cool. I mean, well, you're very successful with the fam too, but the point is that you don't make that your key point, which is very interesting. What
But it is where I struggle the most. So it is where I go to is that's what, like that's why it's so important to me, because it's hard, and I acknowledge it as hard, and I know that I need the resources and to write the books and have the accountability to be a leader of other families so that I can be the best for my family. So it's interesting. And I was going to make one point too, is that, you know, the Instagram world we live in is like all of the guys and gals that I know that own private jets, they never post pictures of them on anything. So they don't post their new fancy cars. They don't post their, like, it's the rare exception of maybe like a Grant Cardone that you see doing some shit like that. Right. But what's interesting is, like, why is that? Like, I fly private sometimes. You'll never see me post a picture of me like, hey, look at me, I'm flying on this private jet. So it's just fascinating to me that I would say like 80% of what you see on social media, somebody is just borrowing that jet or that yacht, and they have no real wealth. And if they did actually buy that car, they're stupid. Like, I see people post and they're like, I'm buying this such and such car, and I know for a fact they don't own a single real estate investment. And I'm like, why would you buy a $200,000 car when you could have bought a real estate investment and kept it rolling? I mean, I've driven the same Audi for the last 10 years straight. You know, it's all dinged up and whatever, but you know, I spent my money on a camper van instead to drive around the country with my family. But it's interesting, that world we live in where it's all posturing and everyone's got the perfect family, the perfect life, and everyone's flying around in private jets and driving Lamborghinis. Like, it's just not reality. So we've got to stop comparing ourselves to that and get a great peer group around us that we can really respect and build off of what they're doing in their lives. And we know it's real and authentic.
Yeah. And I so far, just kind of recap, it starts with the family. Then you build your tribe from there, or find a tribe that you resonate with. And then obviously there's morning rituals that kind of help. And then there's the benchmarking. And then there's a constant learning process, meaning Mike doesn't necessarily probably need to, you know, really work that hard to really have like a financially free life anymore. But the point is he's always growing, and he's growing in all his different pillars, right? So he's in all these different masterminds, and he's getting value from all these different relationships. So it's in a lot of people just stop, right? They go, oh, I'm financially free, I don't need to do anything. But really, I think that the true value of life is to be a lifetime learner, which you are, it's just another thing I wanted to point out in this conversation. And as we're kind of wrapping up this conversation, which we could go on forever, can you just kind of walk us through morning routines, journaling, and things that you do, that you've learned from others that really help you, that might help somebody that's watching this, that's saying, wow, this conversation really resonated with me. Not everybody that's watching this is going to say that. They're going to say, well, this is foo-foo stuff, right? Like, oh, I don't need to journal. I don't need to do miracle mornings. I don't need to do gratitude. And that's fine if you're one of those people that out there. But I can tell you from personal experience, these type of rituals, you know, as much as I never wanted to write something down for a goal or successes, these are the game changers that actually move the needle the most. So will you talk to us a little bit about that as we come to a close with the conversation?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that meditation is one of those things that it feels like you're doing nothing, but it's really one of the most powerful practices that you can commit to. And it's one that also, day after day, year after year, the consistency of meditation, it allows you to take that breath work and that inner calmness it enables you to be in a position where you can then take that into the world. And so meditation for me is a 10-minute practice that I do every single morning. And I usually do either, there's an app called Calm, CALM, and they have a 10-minute daily Calm meditation that's different every day, and it has a lesson in it, and it's got variety. And then there's another app called Waking Up, which is by Sam Harris, who's a philosopher, and they have a 10-minute every morning meditation, and it's different with a different lesson every morning. So every morning I'll get up and listen to one or both of those. Sometimes I'll go 20 minutes and do both. And the Waking Up app specifically, I highly recommend for new meditators, because you can sign up for the 28-day intro class for free, and it teaches you how to meditate for 10 minutes a day for the first 28 days. So instead of just leading you through a meditation, it actually teaches you why meditation is important, how to approach it, how to play with consciousness a little bit, and how to get the most out of meditating. So I really recommend using some type of guided meditation to get you going. And I also recommend, starting with, the Miracle Morning is great because it's 6 different practices that you do every morning. Silence, which is really meditation, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and scribing, journaling. And I really love that. However, what I recommend people do is, if you're resistant to, or you've never gotten your Miracle Morning or your morning routine practice down, instead of trying to do all 6, maybe try to start with just one and get it down where you commit for 7 days or 2 weeks or 30 days, where you're going to meditate just that every day for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is that you can commit to. The other app you can use that I think is free with lots of different guided meditations as well is called Insight Timer. And so I would recommend just starting with that. And what you're really doing is you're coming to the realization and awakening to the fact that whatever's going on inside of you really is what's going to show up outside of you. And it's first creation inside oneself, and second creation is what we manifest outside of ourselves. And I think meditation helps us to get some level of control, although that's kind of the wrong word to use it, but some type of capability to manifest and to create the situations in the life and the experiences that we want. And it comes from really carving that time out for yourself, where you can just breathe and you can just be. And there's thoughts are going to pop in your mind and you won't be able to stop them. But the mastery of meditation is to let a thought roll by like a car does on a street. You hear it, it goes by, you see it, you let it go, then you don't think about the car anymore. And so meditation has been an absolute game changer for me. The other thing that I do a lot is the 5-minute journal app. So it's an app where every day in the morning, it asks you some questions, and in the evening, it asks you some questions, and you can even add some pictures to your day. And then I also like to handwrite in a journal sometimes if I'm reflecting on something that I'm learning, or an audio book that maybe I heard, because a good morning practice also is to get 10 minutes of reading in, if you can, every morning, or audio book in, so that you're also learning. But I also like to just do a little reflection in my journal where I'm getting in touch with sort of my inner child, my inner wisdom. And I'm inquiring and asking questions. And a lot of times you can get some great creative journaling to flow from that. But if you can't, a good thing to just write out is everything you're grateful for. If you just woke up every morning and you wrote out everything you were grateful for, you'd be in a great place. I also, for just a routine of exercise, I have strength workouts and I go on runs and do some other things, but I also like to do about 10 to 15 minutes of yoga and stretching. as part of my miracle morning. So that's kind of what mine looks like. The next thing that I'm going to add, because to the point I was trying to make is I didn't just wake up and do all of these 6 or 7 exercises all at once every morning. I got one down really, really well, and then I stacked the next habit on top of it. So I was meditating consistently. Then I started journaling with my meditation. Once I was meditating and journaling consistently, then I added the yoga. And then once I was doing the yoga consistently, I realized I could put an audiobook on while I did the yoga. So now I'm learning, I'm exercising, I'm meditating, I'm journaling. And then affirmations is part of the miracle morning too. So I have a set of affirmations that I'll read, and I'll look in the mirror and read those. And I'm less consistent with my affirmations than I am on some of those other things. But no matter what you do, the idea here, Beau, is to realize that it doesn't matter what you do or what order you do it in. It just matters that you carve out time where you're building the person that you are by using these techniques to develop yourself personally. This is time that you've carved out just for you to be a better you. And most people, what they do is they just get up and they hit the ground running, and they never really carve that space out to give them the emotional energy, the physical energy, or the spiritual energy that they really are capable of having throughout a day. And so it's amazing. It seems like, oh, that's an hour that maybe I've lost from my day. But when that hour sets you up for success and gives you the energy for the rest of your day and then some, you really, for me, I can't go a day without doing those routines because I feel like I'm just not at my full capacity when I don't do them. And the best analogy is, it's like when you're on an airplane and they say, secure your own oxygen mask before assisting others. This is the same thing, is that we've got to get up and have something carved out for ourselves that we enjoy, that builds us up. And that's what we do when we secure our own oxygen mask.
I love it. Yeah, I do miracle morning, but I'm definitely missing a few elements, I believe. And for me, like, I'll wake up, coffee, and then I go to the gym. Like, I don't miss the gym. That's like done. That's ingrained in me. Where I'm really missing the boat, I feel, is that when I get done with the gym, I have this kind of like, every day I like this urgency, like, I gotta go crush it now, right? Go hit the computer and start calling my clients. And that's kind of, that's unhealthy. So what I'm going to commit to, and see if you commit out loud and in writing, that's the way but yeah, I think meditation for somebody like me, probably most people, but for me, I can tell you, is what I need, because the mind chatter, just to be in a state of calm, right? Because I'm high strung, and that's not good. Just the way I've been in kind of like a sales role, that's just the way I am. I'm just like but I need to be able to meditate. I think that is what I'm going to kind of focus on. Just listening to what you were just saying, like, that's my next step to add in, and not all the additional steps. I don't journal every morning, but that would be key for me. So that was a huge takeaway. Thank you for that. I'm going to really, my mom always tells me too, I need to meditate. Like, she started to meditate, and and a lot of my friends meditate. And I don't know. I've tried it a little bit, and I am going to commit to meditating at least 5 minutes a day, probably after my workout, or maybe before when I'm more relaxed. I'm not sure yet, but it might be better after my workout because I'm a little bit anxious in the morning. So I think I'm going to try that, and then I'll start working and see how that changes my day, changes the flow of my day. So that's great feedback.
Try the waking up app. I'll send you, I think I might have some links to it. I'll text you when we're off the call, but yeah. I think you should try that. I think Sam Harris will resonate with you. He's got like a real practical approach to how he teaches meditation. So yeah. I highly recommend that.
Guys, if you're watching this is kind of like a mock mastermind in a sense, but this is what it's all about, is to find people and mentors in your life and peers that you can, have conversations with and find out, what are they doing? What might I need to be doing or try to just balance out your life and make yourself move the needle a little bit every day. And sometimes it's not about doing more, it's actually taking a step back and doing less and being more thoughtful about your day and a sense of calm. So that's interesting, right? Like we're taking an hour out of our day, even if it's not to work out. And some people go, well, I need to hit the ground running, but really it's that hour of calm and rituals is going to get you further along, because you're going to be doing deeper work. And that's kind of the goal of the conversation. So guys, I know this is probably an unconventional episode, but I think this is probably the most important episode I've ever put out, because I truly think that this is what really changes things for people, more so than like, what's the best way to get lead generation or to buy real estate? Because that's just minimal. This is about, the framework for overall success, which I think is really crucial. And I appreciate you, Mike, for sharing so much wisdom with us and all these years of just listening to you speak. And you always put me at peace when I hear you talk. You just have a good demeanor, the way you talk and convey the message. So I appreciate you so much and look forward to seeing you again in person at some point here soon.
Yeah, thanks, Beau. I really appreciate it. And I did want to mention that if anyone's interested in the GoBundance one sheet, if you go to tribeofmillionaires.com, you can actually download some free resources. Like I think you can actually get a free copy of the book sent to you if you pay shipping and handling, but you can also download some one sheets and some goal sheets and some other stuff that'll help you on your journey. And then also, if you're interested in the Miracle Morning for Parents and Families playbook that I mentioned, you can download 2 free chapters of that book if you go to miraclemorning.com/PF playbook. So Parents and Family Playbook, PF playbook. So if you want to check out, either of those 2 resources to help your family come together, or to even help you get some of your own goals in your own one sheet together, that'd be some great places to look. And like you said, Beau, this may not be the typical podcast that you put out, but it's hard to argue with the fact that if you don't invest in yourself, how could you ever invest in anything else, right? This is the greatest investment that you'll ever make, is the one that you make in yourself, in your routines, in your habits that you create. So I appreciate you having me on to talk to this important topic, man. It was really my pleasure.
Thank you so much. And everybody, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe so we can keep growing this channel and bringing on amazing guests to share their knowledge and wisdom with the masses. Thank you so much, everybody.